Hello friends, welcome to Mizora again, your one-stop to learn problem-solving methodologies and tools to solve real-life business problems. Today I am going to tell you a case through which you will be able to understand even in our day-to-day work where we work in our workplace, why it is so important to write a concise problem statement, right? So let's right. So let's take an example. This is a case from an infrastructure industry, and scenario is a manager is trying to communicate a problem. Let's take through a mail only to his higher authorities and process excellence team to have a look into it and solve the problem. Right. So the let's take what this manager is writing as infrastructure team is unable unable to get vendors as they need time as they need time to time for multiple projects. Yeah, which causes projects to delay, which causes projects to delay. Right. So suppose this is a part of the mail what this manager is writing to his senior manager or to the leadership team, right? So you'd have definitely heard about how do we write a problem and a goal statement. So I'm just trying to give you an example and tell you how. So you'd have learned about SMART, right? So SMART this can be used in both a goal statement as well as the problem statements. So S stands for specific, right? So you talk specific about some problems only, right? Then this should be measurable, right? Uh, this is actionable in term. I use normally actionables in terms of a problem statement or action oriented. Let's say action oriented, right? Then R is realistic or relevant. Realistic in case of a goal, but here we'll take as relevant, right? And finally, T is for time bound, right? So if you see, though this is just an example I'm giving you, this is a real case scenario. Someone reached out to me just to discuss some problem, and this is how he briefed me. I'm just putting it in a mail in a case form to you, but this is more or less 60 to 80% this is accurate in terms of the real case scenario. So this was, so if you see in terms of the SMART, this is quite you cannot say this is not specific, but this can be more specific, right? So here you can have a little improvement. A measurable, no, there is nothing mentioned here which you can measure or you can know what is to be measured, what is measured, right? So you don't have any quantitative and nothing here, right? Then action oriented is, does this hint you towards some actions, or Is there a specific area which needs to be improved? No, that is also a broad statement, right? Then relevant, is it relevant? It can be relevant. That's because it can be a major issues. We don't know. Once you get into root cause, it may be relevant, right? But if it could have been more specific, then you can actually analyze whether how relevant it is, right? And time bounded, for sure it is not, because we can't see any time related stuffs here, right? So just to give you a context how this was is, so in case of, this is for an organization who provides infrastructure services, right? So their infrastructure services can be in multiple areas, say constructions, right? And within constructions you can have again civil areas which you need to do, then electromechanical, right? And after all these things, right? And after all these things again facilities, right? Right? Then maybe your security and safety also, right? Security and safety, yeah, land acquisition also can be a part of this sort of TMS, right? uh, they call it a transaction management. So land acquisition, right? So these are the services, right? And they have vendors. They have vendors here, close to, they have about 100 vendors here, right? So what happens is, while the business team acquires all these contracts, or when they are in touch with a probable customer, suddenly they release the PO or work order, right? And then the ops team has to reach out to all these vendors here, this 100 vendors, and find out a group of vendors who can work on this project with about a 60 days of time period. And they're facing challenges because they don't get this vendors within 60 days time. This normally exceeds, right? So few can be, it can be like this, right? So they can, this exceeds some their expectation, right? So whatever we are saying, we are saying I should get a vendor within 60 days, I'm not getting it, right? So what happens is your whole project gets delayed because your timeline is getting delayed, the whole project gets delayed, right? So now how it could have been improved, right? Let's take the same case, and revise if I can revise the problem statement, will it help anyone to understand it, right? So if I write it something like infrastructure team is unable to find a vendor to work, right? This is the first part of it. When needed for its project across South India, or any demographic. This is just an example. Don't take it as it is, right? South India, and mostly it is happening in mechanical and facilities, right? Let's take this sort of example, right? And which contributes again to 45% of the total number of vendors and 60% of the work related, right? And it does not happen with a notice of 6 days, right? 60 days, sorry, less than 60 days, right? And this problem is in existent for the last 6 to 9 months, right? So these are the different components in smart, what I was telling you, right? So if we put all these things in a problem statement, how does it sound? Let's write it down, and then I'll show you how it sounds, right? So what we are trying to write here is the problem statement is, suppose infrastructure team